So welcome, our brilliant colleague Wren. We so appreciate your leadership and consistent solidarity. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by giving thanks to our creator, by giving thanks to the original stewards, the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So Wren, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Thanks, Victor. Hi, everyone. Thrilled to be here today. I'm an investment director at the McConnell Foundation, a private family foundation based in Montreal. And at the foundation, I lead our impact investing work. So we have recently committed to a new strategy and commitment to build a 100% impact investing portfolio within the next 4 years. That's across all asset classes and impact themes. So it's taking what at the moment stands at around 23% and growing that to 100% of what we do over the next 4 years. So just in terms of definition, impact investing, we really refer to investments that are intentional, measurable, and additional from an environmental and social impact standpoint, as well as delivering a return of various types, depending on which element of our portfolio we're thinking about. So we're really thrilled to have this formal mandate to grow our impact investing work in alignment, of course, with our grant making. And we have 3 programmatic grant making areas: climate, communities, and reconciliation. So yeah, just really thrilled to be able to lead our investment work and to work with others in the Canadian ecosystem and beyond to do this. So much expertise that should and can be shared, and we're thrilled to be able to have this conversation today as part of our continuous focus on learning from others and hopefully contributing as well.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And once again, thank you so much. I'm a huge fan of Liliana and Lalo and Jane and your entire team. Flavia, there's so many remarkable people that make up your team. So once again, I just appreciate your leadership and all the thought, the leadership, and practitionership that you bring to the ecosystem. So that being said, what's inspiring you right now? What has you curious, or what's keeping you up at night in terms of this work?
I think on both of those elements, what's inspiring me right now, I think we just see so much momentum, maybe sticking with the impact investing community right now. When you look at the rise of the social finance fund wholesalers in Canada, bringing new energy and enthusiasm to the impact investing field, really concentrating on how we bring more mainstream asset owners into this space. So rather than just the traditional philanthropic community that's been active for a number of years, how do we use our capital to catalyze more of that mainstream capital so that ultimately we achieve a deeper and broader impact as an ecosystem? So that's really exciting to me, just to see the amount of thought, creativity, energy, and capital moving in this direction. And I think it really is a community that's based on openness, transparency, sharing learnings between one another. So that continuous dialogue, I've just been so I've really felt that positive sense of we're all working towards a similar objective. Let's pool together resources. Let's do things like we've just launched with SVX, the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and in partnership with the wholesalers, an impact investing accelerator program specific to community development finance in Canada. So really looking at tackling some core critical issues within the investment market that just need our attention and urgently. And that's to your second question, Victor, around what's keeping me up at night. It's despite all of this energy, momentum, capital, and enthusiasm, I am one who is extremely impatient, as I know others are. And we look at still, 98% of capital is managed by white asset managers in the world. What are we doing as a foundation to help unlock more opportunity for BIPOC managers in this space? The accelerator is one of those forums we hope to use to achieve some of this change. But then we also reflect on our own internal investment process. And we think, what do we need to change about it to make the outcomes different over time? So participating in things like the SHARE Racial Equity Asset Owners Investor Working Group, looking at a framework we can use to really adapt our due diligence process so that the outcomes of our decision making are differentiated from historical outcomes, that we can say, look, we're supporting a diverse range of managers to achieve their outcomes for their own communities, led by and for those communities. So that's an increasing focus of ours. It's just the pace where we all want to work as quickly as possible. And sometimes it just feels like there's so much that can be done and not enough hours in the day, but we're really thrilled to have such a wonderful, committed team to help us with that. And of course, the wider ecosystem working in a similar direction.
I couldn't agree more. That's remarkable. And Setsi, as you know, we've been on the file around the Social Finance Fund since the Fall Economic Statement in 2018. And we've seen the emergence of all three wholesalers and some remarkable intermediaries. And I couldn't agree with you more in terms of finding ways and means to center justice, access, inclusion, diversity, decolonization, equity in the social finance and impact invest ecosystem. It's so important. So the accelerator program our beloved colleague Adam at SVX is developing, I think, is a really good add-on to the ecosystem. And I'm already seeing folks in the pipeline like Ayo from the BBVA or Deepo Ali, Hana Guyen from Migrate. There's a whole bunch of nascent, remarkable emerging fund managers that are doing some great work, Leaves from BKR Capital and others. So once again, I couldn't agree more. And once again, I just appreciate the space that you're holding the ecosystem and the fact that even though some of the advancements are happening incrementally, I think at least hopefully we're moving in the right direction. So once again, I applaud your leadership. My next question is, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work currently? And are there any ways that you and your team are working to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
Yeah, that is a really important question, Victor. And it's beyond the pace piece. I mean, I think we're all super impatient to see change happen as quickly as possible. It's how do we play the long game too? How do we encourage as many people to come around the table, as much capital to be directed in an impactful way? And sometimes that takes patience, and it takes thinking more strategically about the types of initiatives we as a foundation can support, can lead, can facilitate with others, but really focusing again on those who aren't currently around the table and why. So working on a piece of research, for example, with the Fondation Impact Investing Working Group, which is really looking at that critical question of why aren't more Canadian pension plans, more Canadian asset owners and managers moving in this direction? What's preventing them from committing their capital to impact investing, or just more generally with that dual aim of positive environmental social change alongside financial return, and then taking those findings and actually building new initiatives, products, solutions, so that we can finally see the capital flowing in this direction that we're seeing in Europe and other markets, and have been for the last few years. So yeah, I think it's looking at the long-term prospects and opportunities, thinking about that end game of what would the ideal scenario be for us, and that would to see billions and billions of dollars of capital in the hands of BIPOC managers, in the hands of community finance organizations, actually addressing community need while ensuring we have a sustainable financial system. So it's that long-term view for us of how do we as a foundation support that ecosystem growth and development? And for us, that is partially about scale, again, those mainstream managers, but it's also about depth. And that goes back to wanting to really support community-led finance and initiatives that we're not best placed to lead, but that we could certainly support via our capital and expertise.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of my colleagues was talking about the Maple 8. the largest eight pension funds, and just sometimes a lack of engagements of some of these institutional investors in terms of how they move their capital. And I think a lot of times we're limited as ecosystems in terms of our imagination. And I think a lot of that is to do with groupthink, because even though we are becoming more diverse, and there's more representation, there's still a lack of varying lived experiences. When you look at the different folks around the table, a lot of times, there may be great diversity in terms of race, color, class, creed, but in terms of like when you look at lived experience, academic background, so I feel sometimes groupthink plays a role in terms of how ecosystems sometimes engage other ecosystems in terms of ideas and pitches and innovation. So that's one thing that I always say, that when we're trying to center justice, access, inclusion, diversity, decolonization, equity, we need to look at lived experience and social location and other things in terms of representation, because that will kind of create that 10th man model. That person's gonna say, hey, you know what? What if we try it this way? While everyone else in the room is thinking the exact same way, despite their race, color, creed, or class. So once again, I couldn't agree more. We need to figure out a way how to hack these pension funds, because they've done riskier things. A pension fund, I think, invested in well, anyway, we'll leave that alone today. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. That long game and just having that's macro patience, but that micro urgency, just day in, day out. I couldn't applaud
I
you
love that. Yes,
for
macro patience, micro urgency. I'm going to take that away, Victor.
Oh, listen,
You said repeatedly.
it's yours. So, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work you'd like to amplify? I know you spoke to a few, but are there any other things that you'd like to amplify on the platform?
I mean, certainly on unlocking that pension capital and just capital at large. We're working with the Trottier Foundation right now on a follow-on to what some may remember was the ESG Championships competition a few years ago. And that was really primarily a foundation, family office, capital coming together, a one-off event to get to highlight the best in class examples of ESG, environmental social governance investing. We immediately thought, okay, how can we take the success that was achieved through that event, again, highlighting what are good examples of this rather than what we see in the media so frequently right now, and rightfully so, is examples of greenwashing, which we absolutely want to want to critically assess and highlight, but then there are so many good examples of what's happening too. So that was the ESG championships. What we're building now is an impact iteration. And really it starts with a number of 30 plus scoping conversations with so many different leaders across the ecosystem. And we started with asking the fundamental question of why aren't more investors doing this? What's holding them back? And then we build a solution, at least something that contribute to the solution from there. So rather than a one-off event, this impact investing championships will be a dedicated pooled product, looking at how do we actually tangibly pool together capital for impact. And, in participating with the Trottier Foundation, we hope to really, of course, seed the investment vehicle. We hope to be able to design it in a way that's responsive to the needs of so many people across the ecosystem. We hope that it's absolutely just a build off of what the social finance fund wholesalers are doing. So it's meant to be complementary, where we'll look at international opportunities, but with the intention of really also focusing on the Canadian market. So it's highlighting what is, again, strong impact management practice, what some of the institutional grade opportunities are, so that we can hopefully encourage more mainstream asset managers around the table and widen the tent is the metaphor we like to use. If we often sit in rooms with the same brilliant people who have been so dedicated and committed to this field for so long. One thing we're really looking to do over the coming years to expand that tent and to reach an audience who isn't as familiar with what we do or the benefits it might have for local communities and the environment. So that's one initiative that we're really hoping to spearhead with the Trottier Foundation this year.
That's incredible. Congratulations. I think that's having something like that, especially 30 scoping conversations, to solution and then creating a dedicated fund is truly remarkable. That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing. So my next question, well, so my second last question, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
Such an important question for us. Ultimate success is not about the 100% impact commitment or achieving that, rather. That would be wonderful. We hope we can do that. But the whole rationale for launching this strategy and being public about it is to encourage others at an earlier stage of their impact investing journey, whether they're committing 1%, 5%, however much they think is worth committing. It's how do we encourage others along their own journeys, whatever that looks like. And for us, that's success. So if we have one-on-one conversations with a smaller foundation just getting going, and we can help share our resources and tools to get them off the ground, that's success for us. If we can redesign rather, our due diligence process in a way that's responsive to the hugely inequitable financial system we currently have through, for example, due diligence 2.0, that commitment to really flip the due diligence process on its head, to understand why more capital isn't flowing to BIPOC managers and what we can do to change investment outcomes. That, as in getting our process right, would be a success for me. And then ultimately, what we care most deeply about is the impact our investments are achieving and how that can support our grant-making efforts on the philanthropic side. So how do we evidence, measure, report on impact over time? What does that look like then for the ultimate impact communities are experiencing? Without that impact investing doesn't make a difference. So for us, rather than the 100% commitment, what's important is bringing others along the journey. It's shifting our own investment process such that it benefits those entrepreneurs, those investment managers who could really use the capital. And it's ultimately focusing on the impact for underlying communities and what our capital is actually doing in practice over time.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for your candor and your leadership and all that you're doing for so many. So my last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
I think it's always the call to just keep moving in whatever capacity you have, whatever platform you have to do the brilliant work you're doing. Just keep moving in the impactful directions we all are, and keep working together. I think the more we collaborate, the more we catalyze what each other is doing, the faster we'll get to our end goals. So yeah, let's just keep moving forward together and quickly.
Indeed, as my grandmother always said, let's hurry up and take our time. And we close the way we began this remarkable interview by acknowledging, once again, our creator, by acknowledging the original stewards, the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Wren, thank you so much for all that you do for so many, your visionary leadership, and your authenticity. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Victor.